All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. And this, of course, is coming from Pakistan, where thousands of followers from Pakistan's far-right Islamist group gathered in Lahore, and the situation very quickly turned violent. All right, so this is what the scene was when members of the Tehreek-e-Labbaik party, which has now been banned officially in Pakistan. It can't fight elections, it can't win any seats. And members of this party, they took over the streets in the city of Lahore. And there are also reports that there was a car that tried to ram through the security offices, resulting in deaths of at least about 3 people so far. And many others have been wounded. And also there were clashes between members of the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan party and the forces, which led to further injuries to many people who were taking part in the protests. The police resorted to firing tear gas in defense, but the TLP officials alleged that the security forces resorted to heavy-handed means in dealing with what they described as peaceful protesters. Now, the violent clashes have come after negotiations between the authorities and the banned group broke down. The protesters gathered to demand 2 things first. Firstly, the release of Saad Hussain Rizvi, who happens to be the leader of the TLP group. And secondly, the expulsion of the French ambassador over cartoons that depict Prophet Muhammad in a very poor light. The protest when the demonstrators accused the sitting Prime Minister Imran Khan for his bullying tactics with the protesters. Listening to what some of the protesters have to say.
यही मुतालबा है जो अब आप पीछे से बात कर रहे हैं वो भी सही फरमा रहे हैं तो वो फराज के तस्वीर निकाले सबसे पहले फिर भाई साहब को रिहा करे फिर जो ये नित रोज नए तमाशे कर रहे हैं ये जो बदमाशियां कर रहे हैं ये जो गुंडागर्दियां कर रहे हैं हम इसके भी कायल नहीं है.
Now, the main roads from and to Lahore and Islamabad have been blocked with shipping containers to prevent the demonstrators from leaving. Authorities have even suspended cellular service, but the TLP party has warned of a plan B if the authorities were to stop them from entering into the capital city. Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan's chief Saad Rizvi, remember, was arrested in the month of April earlier this year. He was first detained for a period of 3 months and then again under the Anti-Terror Act. The 27-year-old leader, who is a very vocal supporter of many controversial laws, including the blasphemy law, was detained further by the Pakistan security forces. Now, more protests that could turn violent are expected later in the day today because of a federal review board is scheduled to take up the government's reference against him. Now, remember, just 7 months ago, there were similar clashes that had broken out across Pakistan. Many people gathered to protest over a series of cartoons that depicted Prophet Muhammad in very poor light. Some of the cartoons depicted the Prophet with a turban with a bomb tied to it that were published in France. And at least about 5 policemen and 3 actors were killed in the protest that took place in Pakistan, and at least about 1,000 people were injured. Now, the caricatures were published in the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo last year. The articles included pieces on far-right governments and other religions as well. And these people in Pakistan who are protesting are demanding for the immediate expulsion of the French ambassador from Pakistan and also a boycott of all French-made goods in Pakistan. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.